What
You
up?
added the hat to the sunglasses?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta change this. Now it's like but that's too much in my face, friends. All right. You got a hat with the sunglasses? You be wearing like
Yeah.
a scarf tomorrow?
I don't know. I like to mix it up. I got the collar shirt on today.
I know,
Feeling
you're all
like
professional,
I need
like.
to sit by a pool or something today. Just put some shorts on, I'll be good.
We'll see what we can do today. Yesterday's show had a little. You got a little tension on the internet after yesterday's Damian Lillard comments.
Oh man, come on. That's just because these people is is semi-fans. They casuals. They don't really look at it. They didn't get the in-depth perception of what I really was trying to say, and it had nothing to do as a knock to Dame. But I'm saying to acquire a player like that, you're gonna lose so much of the other pieces you had that helped you get to where you needed to go. And the team with those pieces, yeah, they made the finals, but people seem to forget that team was a play-in team.
They were.
So that don't make you a contender when you get to the finals. They're going to have to figure out what they could do better in the regular season. And I just think, if they gut their team, it's going to be a struggle trying to win the East.
All right. I'm still sitting with T-Mac on this one and thinking we're going to bring the tape up, though, in a year. And we'll see. We'll see who's right. Maybe it'll be you. Maybe Tracy and I will have to take it all back. I don't know. I don't know. It's a problem, though, right? When teams make a big trade. We saw it with the Mavericks. We saw it with the Suns in the season. They make the trade for KD, and then they got their team, right? And Dallas, gave up Dorian Finney-Smith. They gave up pieces that they needed, and they didn't make the playoffs because of that.
Yeah. All right, so look at this. If I say this to the casual fan, if I told you a team with Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, and Dwight Howard wasn't really that good, would you believe me? Probably not, right? It
didn't go well.
It didn't go well. That's what I'm saying.
Steve Nash had a bunch of injuries that year, but that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's sometimes what can happen.
Yeah, so, things like that can happen. So we'll see. We'll see. We will see, people.
Yeah. All right, well, so Kevin Durant, by the way, has been in the news a lot the last 24 hours. Also on the internet, he likes to interact on the Twitter.
Yeah.
So two things he called out. First thing was, the more of these fake websites have popped up, or fake Twitter feeds where they make the quote look like one of the quote panels that ESPN or Bleacher Report or Showtime. Wow, what is happening over here? You all got to show this. What's happening? There we go.
All right, here we go.
It's getting a lot of adjustment. There you go.
All right, let's see. What are we saying now?
All right,
KD
no.
What?
So how you'll be scrolling your feed on Instagram or whatever, and they'll have the picture with the with the type, and it'll be here's the quote, here's what Paul Pierce said yesterday, that kind of thing. But there's more. There's more. Oh yeah.
More to it though.
we got an excellent viewing panel, by the way, right here. I love how everyone in the NBA walks by and they're like, "Hi,
Roy, what up, Roy?"
Hi. No, it's not that there's more to it. It's that a bunch of them are fake.
Right.
So, yesterday, KD called out a quote he didn't say, right? And it had gotten, by the time he got to it, it got 5 million impressions. And it's presented any of the legit sites would present a quote or something that they want to be clickbait or whatever. It's kind of crazy how much more that's happening. It's happened to me. I've seen it happen to a bunch of players.
Yeah, that's happened to me too. It's a lot of stuff people saying I said, so I don't know where they get it from.
With you, I can't imagine
I don't know where they get it from.
But it's kind of interesting, layer of being a modern athlete today is that, now, you didn't even have to say it to get in trouble for saying it.
Yeah, you don't know what's real these days. You could create so many narratives because of the internet, and it's a shame. But we get fed these false narratives a lot of times, and you really don't know the facts. But the beauty of it is we have we're in a generation in a way we can clear that up ourselves.
So KD went out and was like, I didn't say that.
And so that's the beauty of it. Whereas before it was tough. You like, oh, did they say that? Did they do that? But now, you have your own voice, you have your own platform to where you can clean it all up.
That's true. I don't know. I think it's getting kind of out of hand. I agree with Katie on this one. We have a great slate for everyone today, Paul. We got people coming in and out. The first people we have the directors of the new Showtime documentary series, Goliath. I went to the premiere last night. It was fantastic. I am so excited for people to see this. Kevin Garnett was one of the producers.
Okay.
It's just sort of a great look at a guy who we all know, Wilt, right? And depending on what age you are, you might know some stories. Most of us, frankly, I just know the lines in the record book, right? Every record he has. And this brings it to life and brings him to life in a cool way. So I'm excited to welcome these guys in.
I can't wait to see this. can't wait. I had
There
a
you
chance
go.
to meet Wilt when I was in college. You know, he's a Kansas guy.
There you go. Rob Ford, Chris Dillon, Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce, how you doing?
Hello, nice to see you again.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet y'all. Come on in.
I was just telling Paul how sweet this was. Last night they screened the middle episode. There's 3 episodes. Debuts on Sunday nights, 10 p.m. on Showtime. You can also get it on streaming on Paramount Showtime. It is a fantastic look. And I was explaining what, I talked about a little bit last night, guys, that I think for a lot of people, you don't have to be that young. You don't have to be like a teenager not to really know much about Wilt. Right? It was long enough ago that you can be in your 40s and an NBA fan and just, right? Okay, thank you.
But I got the job.
Right?
I didn't know a lot.
Right? Right. It's just, you just know all the lines in the record books, right? He's got more than 70 records. Still, it's mind-blowing. What did you guys what did you learn about him? I mean, you're a good example if you didn't know that much. Was there one thing you learned over the course of doing this that either surprised you or that you want people to most know when they walk away from this?
Yeah, the list is long. Highlight reel, I would have to say, first and foremost, how deeply sensitive and emotional he was. You know, when you hear about the points and the dominance and the size and the strength and obviously the women.
And the bragging.
It just feels like so machismo
Yeah.
and bravado. But he really cared what people thought, and he really wanted to be liked. And particularly, towards the latter part of those years of his life, it feels like he was like deeply in search of love. That, watched the movie, but I'm not sure if it ever really was truly fulfilled. So that was sad for me. It's kind of Shakespearean, tragic in that way. I would say the other part, wholesale, that I was just incredibly mesmerized with was just how amazing of a businessman he was. He had no agent, and we're talking Jim Crow America, and this dude knew his value. Like the way cats know their value today.
Yeah.
Right,
like run it, trade me, pay me.
Right.
He was on that back then when the system and the structure and the organization wasn't even in place to facilitate it, but his greatness and his self-confidence just forced it to happen. So fascinating dude, man. Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, the opposite, because I knew a lot about Wilt, or I thought I did, because I'm a big, lifelong Hoops fan and heard all the stories and all the criticisms because it was framed as Wilt Russell, champion versus, great player, great scorer, but. And
By the way, I love that. He only won 2 NBA titles. So,
Right.
But, he only won 2 rings. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but
It's a different era.
what I was getting were the stories.
Yeah.
And those were the stories that were written about him and said about him by the people who wrote and said stories.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to learn that even the basketball didn't reflect what I thought happened. Because it's a basketball game. It should be uncontroversial,
Right.
what took place. But then, I Havlicek steals the ball was in
Right.
episode 2. And I didn't know when I first saw the game footage that, that Wilt had first scored 4 points in the final minute to bring him back. And that's not choking.
Right. And then Bill Russell's the one that messed up to create that situation in the first place.
Yes.
But, I mean, how many times were you in the Garden when they play old clips up and it would be, oh, Bill Russell did this or Havlicek did, like that kind of thing, and they don't show the other side of it.
Right. I mean, that's just the way it goes. You come into a Celtic building, we're going to show you all our highlights.
Exactly.
Right. Because there's a thing that happened and then there's a story that's told.
Of course.
And I realized had been my whole life believing the story that was told. And what really moved me was understanding, because Wilt did care, that it bothered him that people said things about him that weren't true, and that he couldn't correct the narrative because it was now just the myth.
Right.
And he liked some of the myth,
Sure.
but other parts of it really, really bothered him, and he never felt like he was able to say that. And that's what this became, and for us, in part, was to try to help him tell some of his story and show you the games. And you decide, do you think he choked? Because the headline was Wilt choked.
Right.
But he just scored 5 points in the final minute.
Right.
And then someone else stole the ball from another Hal Greer was inbounding the ball to Chet Walker. Wilt's not even in the play.
Right.
And we can't even get into the level of nerd where it's like Dolph Shays didn't have them move at all.
Right.
There's no screen set. There's nothing. Havlicek steals the ball is the lamest steal in history. He just turns around and catches it.
Don't let him in Boston hear you say that.
I mean, it's a great play, but it's like he didn't have to like move.
No, the myth building around it. I mean, it's funny. We were literally, as you guys were on the way in, talking about KD made a completely appropriate fuss to me about the fact that one of these like aggregation kind of website things where they, they throw up the graphic and the quote and it looks very official. Well, now there's starting to be fake ones that throw up fake quotes, and that he caught one that was a quote supposedly by him and it had 5 million impressions by this morning. Damn. And he's like, I didn't even say that. And P just brought up the point, like at least today players can go to Twitter the way Kevin did and be like, I didn't say that stuff, but you can't do that if you're Wilt. Yeah, 100%.
No, and he wanted it badly.
Yeah.
He wanted to do that, and he died before it could take place.
Paul, what have you heard about Wilt through the years? Like, what is your impression of him?
I mean, just basketball-wise, I just know how dominant he was. I know, the legacy he had left everywhere he's been. You go to Kansas, you see his number retired. I actually had an opportunity to meet Wilt and take some pictures and have a moment with him when I was in college. Damn. I still have that picture we took when he came to Kansas, his only time back in Kansas when I was there.
When you were there, yeah. And
it was just like to see him walk into the room and just like his aura. Like, I had a chance to meet this guy he shook my hand. It was like his hand just swallowed my whole arm. I was like, man, this is Wilt right here.
Right.
And just, man, you catch yourself staring at this just huge presence walking in, and you understand the impact that he left on the game. Not only at Kansas, but in the NBA, just being one of the first true superstars in the NBA, to where everywhere he went, everything he did, people follow, people look, people criticize him, people, he was the first superstar, that was iconic.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I had to share some moments with him and just kind of see his
That's
aura.
so cool.
See his
I didn't know
aura.
that. That's so cool. You guys can help me out. Well, what years was Wilt with the Lakers? I'm sorry, I don't have that in my brain.
He was traded in going into the 68-69 season.
Okay, all right.
And then he was there until he left the NBA, and at 72-73 was his last as a player. And then there was a contract dispute, and there's stuff we can't include, where he jumped and coached the Conquistadors in San Diego in the ABA for 1 year with with no shoes on the side.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
I mean, how present was Wilt as a Laker for like your neighborhood, for your friends, for your family? I mean, it was before your time, but I mean, you grew up in LA, and it wasn't that much before your time that he was balling with the Lakers.
You saying for me?
Yeah, for you. Like, was he like a presence or not really?
No, I'm 45.
He's like, great, I hate that.
That's what I said. That's literally
I'm more the Kareem.
No. That's what. But listen to my question. Thank you. I said he wasn't there when you were right. Okay, I made the point. That's why I asked, because I know how old you are. Thank you. I said, but for your dad, for your family, like, was Wilt still like someone you heard about? Because when you were 6-7 years old, he'd only stopped playing like 8-10 years ago. You talked to your kids about Shaq, and Kobe.
Yeah, I think for me, I just didn't understand Wilt's impact until I got to the NBA, I got to I got to college, in Kansas. But like growing up in LA, it was more about Kareem and Magic.
It was like in the
moment. And the Showtime era. But then when I get to Kansas, and you're like, oh, well, Wilt has the record for this. And, his numbers over here, and here's just pictures over here.
Yep.
I'm like, whoa, I know Wilt from the 100-point game, but I didn't know he went to Kansas until I got there. Then I started learning more about what he did in college. And so that's my first memory of learning about Wilt.
I love how you guys capture sort of his impact on the court, how he changed the game for so many people, changed what people thought a guy could do on the basketball court. And we talk a lot about evolution of the big men now, right? I mean, it's been such a change from even when KG came in the league, and then we go to the modern big man right now. We look at Victor Wembanyama, who debuted here at Summer League, and just he seems like a whole different kind of big man now that we've got. For you guys, what do you think that Wilt sort of set the stage for guys like Kareem, who followed right after him, or maybe even Hakeem, who wasn't that long after him?
Basketball expert that's in the piece, this guy Ben Taylor, does the Thinking Basketball podcast and all that stuff, and he has this great analysis of Wilt as being the most instructive player, because he actually taught coaches and the league how a big man should be used, because there had never been a weapon like him before. They started off, and this is part of the agency being given to Wilt, where it's like Wilt just wants to shoot. He's a gunner, as if Wilt's completely in control of everything on the court, not being fed the ball by a guard or any, you know. And that was a decision made by Frank McGuire and his early coaches to be like, we'll probably win if you shoot the ball all the time.
Right.
And then they found out that didn't work because they went up against
5 against 1.
Yes, and there's audio. I think we did a good job with Bill Russell in episode 1 and 3, especially where Russell's talking about efficiency in the 60s. He's talking about, I can't stop him, but what I can do is I can knock him off his spot a little bit, make him slightly less efficient over the course of the game. We're going to win. And they found out that's true. And then the coaching started to evolve to be like, Wilt had gravity.
Right.
You know, they realized like that, okay, you're drawing a triple. How about Larry Costello? You cut off the ball to the hoop and Wilt will give you an open layup.
Right.
You know, and then they become the most efficient offense in the league and they win a title. And then as he's diminishing in his career, he's setting screens and he agreed not to shoot anymore because he had West and Goodrich.
Right.
And it's like, you got to make space for these guys, Wilt. And he didn't want to at first. This is the moment where Wilt really was selfish.
Right.
And be like, I don't want to give up being Wilt. And then they didn't win and he got injured and he was like, if I want to win, I'm going to play like Russ. And because, you know, that actually was the more efficient way to play. Like the way Joker is, you know, besides all the ball handling and facilitating, he's setting screens and dribble handoffs and stuff. He's opening up space for Jamal. Like Wilt starts doing that, and you see West and Goodrich just crush people.
Yeah.
So, like, by the end, they're like, okay, this is how a big man should play. You know, no one else is taught, I think, as much. And if Wilt came around after Wilt,
Right.
I think his whole career is different. From day one, they're
Really?
like, this is how you should play, Wilt.
So you think he wouldn't hold all those scoring records?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that he probably doesn't score 50 a game.
Right.
Because they're looking at efficiency of the team, you know, and that's really what it boiled down to is like, Wilt, you're amazing. How do you make the collective more efficient? Yeah. You know, and they learned that basically by being handed this guy that was unstoppable and probably still would be, you know.
What was it like for you, Paul, when you started playing with Kevin? Because he was so different from any big man I assume you had ever played with before.
I mean, it just wasn't traditional. And when you go and look at Wilt to where the game is today, or when Kevin came in, he pretty much kind of changed the game for 7-footers. Because when I played with Kevin in high school, big men wasn't really getting the rebounds and dribbling it up court, putting it behind their back and shooting threes. And when I saw that, when Kevin was doing that in our McDonald's All-American game, I was like, whoa, this is different. And then that transcended the position now.
Yeah.
So now, moving forward, kids like that who are Kevin's size and his build are starting to play like that. And as we move on in the history, when you see somebody that transcends the game, it changes the game. And so now you have the kids in lower school, middle school, and high school emulating that. And this is what you get moving forward. Because if you can't do this, then you're not going to make it. Right. You see that.
100%. And then you mentioned it earlier in this conversation, the off-court stuff is crazy. So I didn't know this. Here's one thing I learned last night. Wilt started doing the 1-year contracts. Remember when LeBron would do the 1-1-1-year contracts to get that leverage? Guess who did that 40 years earlier? Wilt Chamberlain. I had no idea. I mean, that's pretty great in an era where there's no free agency, right? Where you can basically, so he couldn't really threaten to leave, but he could threaten to retire. And because you couldn't move around, but you could say, if you don't do what I want.
He had the Globetrotters.
That was another thing. Yeah. I didn't know he played for the Globetrotters for 17 years. Yeah. 17 years.
In the offseason, every offseason, he would go back and play with the Globetrotters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He loved it. He was worldly. He got to travel Europe. There was no pressure. You know, there was like all the pressure of like, you can't win is off the table. I just get to perform for people who love me.
Right.
And I think that, he got to develop the skills that they just wouldn't let him do in the NBA. That they'd be brought to the NBA.
Right.
You know,
right.
Like the passing and all that stuff.
I mean, that blew my mind that he did it for, not only did it for that long.
Yeah.
But they gave him a threat. And he was like, I can play for them. They will pay me more than you're paying me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's, bananas. And so much, too, about the way the game's overall business gets done now. The rivalries, obviously, was a big part of what you guys highlighted in the episode you screened last night. And we saw, not just Russell and Wilt that we've been talking about, but the Celtics as a whole and everything. I was asking Paul before the show who you thought your greatest rival was, because you spanned a few eras and went up and down against a few guys, but it's got to be...
It's probably LeBron.
Yeah, I think so.
Playing against him a lot in the playoffs, in the regular season. Just individually, I would say him for me. You know, I don't know who his rival, he would say his is, but for me, it has to be LeBron.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, you play 20 years, you get a lot of rivals, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So there's that. But that idea, too, of, I mean, look, when he was playing against you guys, when he was still in Cleveland the first time, I kind of think there was a lot of similarities between Wilt playing against the Celtics in his era, because you guys were so much more of a complete team than those early Cavs teams he had, right?
Yeah. He was a dominant young player and couldn't get past us, so he had to move around.
Yep.
And LeBron took that narrative until he won.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I probably fueled the move to Miami because I'm tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't know.
Can't beat him. Can't beat him.
What do you think the greatest rivalry in the NBA is right now? Because it was
Right
Cavs.
now?
It was Cavs Warriors for like a whole era.
Man, Rachel, it's always gonna be Celtics and Lakers. I mean, come on, man. I mean, to the end of time, that's gonna be the greatest rivalry all the time. I don't care. I mean, who? Who else did? Unless you got in-state rivals, I don't know. It's all for me. And you know what I noticed, and I just noticed today when I think about rivalries, team rivalries, the Celtics are probably one of the most hated franchises team-wise by fans that don't. But this is what I'm saying. Like, when you look at the rivalries, I do say Celtics and Lakers. But you know how many rivals that the Celtics have? You can say Celtics Knicks. Yeah. You can say Celtics Sixers.
Yeah.
I mean, Celtics Heat. Right. I mean, we have more rivalries with everybody else than any other team. And I think that's because we're one of the more hated teams. Because even when I grew up, I hated the Celtics.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when I look at it like, why nobody else got this many rivalries?
Celtics Lakers
because
this
of history.
year. Yeah, exactly. You've got all those banners up. Celtics Lakers this year went to overtime, both regular season games they played.
Oh yeah, that was a great game. I was at both of them too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You were in
I was
Boston.
at the one in the Staples Center and in Boston.
Yeah. I mean, they still have a lot of juice. I mean, and they both made it to the conference finals.
Okay, so y'all say that because we got the banners and stuff. What about it's the city? It's the city. It's not the Celtics, because then you have the Red Sox and Yankees. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. A lot of people don't like the Patriots. You're right.
It's the
Nationally.
city.
I mean, Bill Russell hated the city.
That's true.
You know, I guess when you a city that's winning so many championships, got so much tradition, and everybody want to be like you, I guess you are the most hated and you have the most rivals.
Well, look, in the 90s.
Because this goes beyond Boston Celtics.
That's true, though. That's a
In the
good
90s,
point.
that was the Knicks, though, right? I mean, you had Knicks Pacers, Knicks Heat. Like, you had, you know, in the 90s, I felt like the Knicks were the team that a lot of people in a lot of different cities were sort of going against or not wanting to be a part of.
See,
so.
I think that's the city of New York. That's the city of New York.
One of the things I thought was so fascinating was this idea of who is Goliath. And the series is called Goliath, obviously, and Wilt Chamberlain is a Goliath of a human being. But you guys pointed out what we've been talking about, that, you know, what if Goliath is really David? This idea that he was kind of this lone man by himself facing this band of Bill Russell brothers and everyone who was on those Celtics teams. And no one feels sorry for Goliath, and it's hard to sort of have people understand what you're up against. How much was that a theme you guys wanted to carry through the documentary?
It was definitely a thread throughout. We actually experimented and explored with trying to have it integrated more, and you know, it didn't necessarily pan out for a variety of reasons. But first and foremost, everything that we approached, we were trying to always bring it from Wilt's point of view. So it was a quote that he made in reference to himself. So it kind of gave us, you know, autonomy to use. And then in addition to that, it's how he was perceived. But when you dig into the details and you see, particularly with the Celtics and Russell and all the Hall of Famers that Russell had, you know, also the fact that Wilt had multiple coaches, different organizations. He moved around. He didn't have the stability, you know, that Russell had. But he was always looked at as, like, figure it out. And I think, to me, another thing that was, like, such a deep struggle and conflict for him is, like, and he said it and wouldn't deny, like, I'm that dude. Like, can't nobody mess with me. But it's still a team game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Ty Boy says, like, you could be the baddest motherfucker.
Yeah.
1 against 5, you're going to lose every time.
Yep.
So the struggle of, like, I want to be great and I want to carry the weight of putting this on my back, but only so far is just super, super challenging. And in reality, yes, as a result of that, he is David because the odds are stacked against him. And it's an uphill battle. And in reality, he's the underdog. But physically, he just doesn't present himself in that fashion. So that's where it gets like very confusing. And the conflict, happens. So
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I think it was a big theme because there's a lot of ways to look at it, including the fact that like Wilt, being an African American basketball player in the 50s and 60s and 70s, is being viewed as like you're the dominant force, but like literally he's breaking through barriers to get there.
Sure.
In episode 1, there's an amazing story by Thomas Sherry, who played with him with the Warriors, where he admits like the players on the Warriors were racist against Wilt.
Yeah.
The white players were racist against him, and yet the whole world's looking at it like you're the boss, you're in charge because
Right. It's not actually like that behind the scenes.
No,
Right.
no, and it's being sold. He's making money. His fame is growing because it's being sold as David versus Goliath because that's easy to follow individuals as opposed to thinking about the nuance of a team game and needing teammates and help, and it's less easy to just tell that story.
Right. That is a fascinating way to look at it. It's such an interesting series. Before I let you guys go, Paul, I wasn't sure how much they were going to tackle it, but they did. Paul, what can you tell America about what you know about Wilt's womanizing ways? What's the number that you may know?
No, I don't know.
What's the number that might pop into your head if you're a basketball fan?
I'm going off pretty much what he said.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he said like, what, 200 or 1,000?
20.
20,000? Yeah, it was something with a 2.
A couple zeros.
20,000, yeah. I was like, hold on, 2,000, 20,000? Man, come on. Man. I wish we could see. It should be some tall 7-footers walking me in the league right now. If it's that many.
Right.
I mean, man, what's going on, man? What? You can't tell me he was protecting all of them. What? Oh, man, that's the myth. That's a myth.
Well,
Dang, that's one of the myths of Goliath, I guess. Could you imagine people like thinking about this iconic, huge, imposing figure just walking around town or just on the street or outside and just people gravitating toward him all the time? I mean, geez.
Hey, girl.
Hey now, how you doing?
Hey there. But you guys addressed it straight on. You guys didn't hide from it. I mean, what do you think the most important takeaway from that section of the episode was?
And there'll be more.
Yeah.
In episode 3.
Yeah.
For me personally, my personal biggest takeaway is like, as the film tracks and you really get to understand him, starting from adolescence when he's first made to be objectified as a freak and put in this remedial class. He's constantly in dialogue externally with society around him about how can I prove to you that I'm a human being and I'm not just a physical specimen.
Right.
And that's why he's always trying to be an intellectual and a sophisticated and cultured and traveled and know the finest wine and the best, food. And then we get to this point in his life where his career's done, and he's, in my opinion, done a great job of demystifying this dehumanizing sort of narrative around him. And then he didn't make the statement. The statement was presented to him, and he agreed to go and make a PR stunt to try and sell some books. And unfortunately, in my opinion, he then negates a lifetime of work.
Right, because that's the thing people associate off the court with him. Is like,
canceled.
oh yeah.
And he physically objectified himself.
Right.
And that was the lasting memory that, unfortunately, even to this day, we're still talking about, is how people remember him. So for me, it's heartbreaking, again, especially thinking about all the work he did, as Chris mentioned, with respect to the 50s and the 60s, and just being a black man who was like, I know my value, I know my worth, I'm a human being, treat me with respect. And then he makes that statement. It's just like, it kind of blew it all away. And I think retroactively, he wouldn't have said it. He wouldn't have agreed
if he knew
what
the effect would
play
be
out for his legacy. So that was sad and heartbreaking for me.
I mean, I love that you guys didn't hide from it. I'm interested to see, we watched episode 2. I'm interested to see the 3rd episode where you guys explore that a little bit more. I did think the story Pat Riley told in that episode was pretty amazing. Pat Riley was talking about how they were in LA and Wilt was like, oh man, I'm I'm going to butcher this, so
No
please
worries.
excuse me. He was like, man, I saw this hot girl in this like green Corvette, and she kind of waved at me, and I got to find out who this is, and like, oh, she's hot, man. And Pat's like, yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, I know who that is. And I don't want to tell him, but I don't know. I don't want to get cut from the team if I play this wrong. And that I guess at a game shortly after that, he went to Wilt. He's like, I know who the girl is. I know who you're talking about. And he came up. He's like, I like to introduce you to my wife, Chris.
Oh, wow.
And there you go. You can learn so much more about Wilt Chamberlain.
gotta check this
Seriously,
out.
guys, it's so good. There is everyone. I mentioned Pat Riley. You guys got everyone to sit down and talk to you. There's great voices in this. There's Wilt's voices in this. I mean, it's an incredible package of presenting who he was as a human. And to your point of, hey, maybe some of the myths about him overtook his humanity in retrospect, you guys are going to give that back to him for a lot of basketball fans, and I think that's really special. So thank you guys for being here.
course. Thank you.
Everybody, you have to check this out again. It's going to be on Sunday nights on Showtime, 10 p.m., but you don't have to watch it at 10 p.m. You can watch it whenever the hell you want. Just go to streaming, go look it up, and just binge it. It's so good. So enjoy. There you go. Good luck, you guys.
Thank you.
Guys, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Man. Pleasure, brother.
And
Excellent.
when he comes back to Kansas, is a big part of episode 3. So,
All right,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, well, you're
We're
you're
going to take a
probably
quick
in
break.
it,
We'll be
in
back
on
with
it
Amin
in
El
shots.
Hassan. We'll
I
see you in a
got
bit.
the picture with us in the locker room. I was like, ooh.
Ticket and Chug, let's get it.
We talk about the GOAT, man. He might be the GOAT. He set a new bar.
Setting the bar, he's killing the bar.
He set a new bar, I'm saying.
Both of them are on the list, the top 10.
What? Come on.
Wow.
Is he the best player in the league?
I can't say that.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying?
You got the-
Texas over everything bone mouth.
You ain't won every bet.
I have though.
Nope. Come on. That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. That's easy money. They feeling too good about themselves. They outside. I don't care what time.
He
it
said
is.
he finna get
Think about it.
Southeast.
Think
They
about
finna
it.
get Southeast. I
Add
think.
them to my parlay. The PP parlay.
Listen to the Commissioner Pierce here. He has the insights on the flow of what we're creating here.
Truth is truth.
They doing the cha-cha, goddammit.
They team doing the cha-cha slide. Right.
We are back, Show Ball Live. Look who came in to join us. It's our old friend Amin Elhassan.
What's up, Amin? What's up, buddy?
Just like old times, right?
You walked in here. I just want to I'm going to give you a whole introduction, but you walked in here. You did not have sunglasses
I know,
on.
I just noticed that.
You sat down. It's like,
We in Vegas. You know?
what is happening?
It's Vegas.
You
notice
always
that.
have the glasses
I
on.
always wear glasses.
T-Mac had shades on yesterday. Rob Ford, the director of Goliath, just walked in here. He had his glasses on. Took them off when he stood up. I mean, come on.
No, you know, I'm just
You're
trying.
not that cool.
I'm trying to stay
Y'all are
consistent.
not that cool.
It's not about being cool. You know what it is?
Of course it is about
Honestly,
being cool.
No. What it actually is it's a combination of the lights in the studio are very bright, and they have to be in order for us to look good. But you know, for my eyes, my eyes are sensitive.
My eyes.
It's straight into my eye muscle.
Bright lights. It's terrible. This is Amin Elhassan, Meadowlark Media. You can hear him regularly on the Dan Le Batard Show, but he also has his own new show coming out called Oddball. You can already catch an episode of that. We're going to talk about that later, but while we have you here, we got to talk a little bit current NBA stuff, right? And I was talking to Paul before the show about the rule changes. So there's a couple rule changes that came out this week, right? So one of them is about the challenges, and this is way overdue, is that if you are successful, you get one challenge a game usually, but you don't want to waste it too early because even if you're right, then you've wasted it, and what happens at the end of the game? So a lot of times coaches like miss out on what would have been their best challenge opportunity because they're worried about saving it. So the NBA now says if you are right on that first early challenge, you get a second one.
Right.
So that's good, and you get your timeout back for the first one. You don't get it back for the second one, which is weird. But
No,
it's
because too many timeouts. I'm good with that. Like we can't have all these timeouts.
okay. But if you're right, you're right.
If you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
But that's it. They give you that.
It shouldn't
one try to
cost
be
you
right.
something for being right.
No.
It shouldn't cost you something because the referee got something wrong. That shouldn't be like my fault.
Look, in all cases, when it comes to new NBA rules, anything that makes the game faster, I'm with it. Anything that makes the game slower, I'm not with it. Our games are getting way too long.
I do.
We
I
got
agree with
too
that.
many people.
Too many reviews.
Too many times we are watching people watch TV, which is when the refs huddle around that monitor. That is the most boring thing in our sport. The most exciting thing is when they get back to playing. So if we can get rid of a timeout anyway, I'm good with it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So it's only two of them?
So you get one to start with.
Okay.
And if you're wrong, that's it.
That's it?
And if you're right, you get a second one for later in the game.
All right, so if I get one right, I get a second one, and then if I get a second one, I use that, I get that right. No more after that, right?
No more after that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, all right.
But it's funny because players are always doing this, right? They're always like, review,
in the
right?
first quarter,
Right, in
for
the
an
first
out-of-bounds
quarter. They're
play.
like,
I'm like,
right,
come on,
right,
guys.
right. And now it's going to be actually more pressure on the coaches. I think it's kind of interesting dynamic with players and coaches, Paul, because, you know, once coaches had this challenge power, like players want them to use it all the time.
Yeah.
And they could at least say, guys, I'm not going to use it till the end of the game, right? Like we all know that's not smart. Now that there's maybe two, how much more pressure do you think guys are going to want, like the review?
I haven't really paid attention to when coaches want the challenge. Is there a red flag they throw out?
They like make
It's
a
green
signal.
light. So they
yeah.
signal,
They
and then
signal
they
this.
put a
Oh,
green
this is
light
the
at the
signal.
end.
Okay.
Yeah. But the
Okay,
players,
but
they want everything challenged.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think about it, because you didn't
Yeah.
have this when you were playing,
Yeah.
but like the idea that like if you could get every time you thought someone
Man,
foul
that
was
shot
called
out
on
here
you
in
wrong.
Washington, man, I wish we had a challenge for that one. Man, my last game out there, man, because I think it was good. They was like, no good. Man, I wish we had the challenge.
See?
that-
There you go.
It's just because it's there. You know what
Well,
I'm
that's
saying?
what I know. That's what I mean. But
yeah.
it's going to be, to me, that's the dynamic to watch. Is first of all how it affects games, because I think it will. But the little sub thing to watch to me is going to be how much more you see players early in games being like, okay, come on,
But
let's go.
the reality is, Rachel, there are moments early in games where it is. You
No, it
kinda
does
need
make a difference.
So if for instance, my guy gets his fourth
Mm-hmm.
in the first half, like that's a big one. Like, we're gonna try and get out of that one if it's
Yeah.
close or something like that.
Yep.
But a lot of times, like you said, guys they're arguing for a review on just the dumbest things.
I mean,
like,
no one in the
stepped out of
NBA has
bounds.
ever committed a foul, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And they've all been molested. Anyway, the other rule change is on flapping.
This
tech-
one's long overdue.
Right. So there's now a tech issued on the flapping. Although I like one of the things they said about this rule, this goes to your speed of the game, is that the official doesn't need to call it in the moment and stop play. He can wait or she can wait until the next natural stoppage. And then once there's the next natural stoppage, the player who was flopped, it's just a technical for the other team. It's whoever they want can take the technical, right? It's considered a technical if you're flopping, and then the other team gets a one-shot free throw technical.
So how do you know if a player's flopping?
So I talked to one of the guys in the referee operations, and he said basically the way it's going to be worded and the way it's going to be expressed to the teams is exaggerated, over kind of.
Okay, so you can't exaggerate no more.
No,
okay.
you can. Like, so let's say, for instance, I put my shoulder into your chest, and you fall back because you did get hit. That's all right. But when you fall back and then there's an extra jump, you know how like some guys will get hit and they'll fall back, and then there's another kind of jump on the floor or flail their arms extra.
So
all that
there,
extra
there
sort
can
of,
be an offensive foul and a flop at the same time?
Yeah, they said they can call a foul and a flop at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
like if you overdo it, basically. And, you know, the reason for it, remember a few years ago they had, we're going to fine guys for flopping. And I said, well, that doesn't work for two reasons. One, the amount of money versus like the gain is not in sync. Basically, if I'm finding Paul $10,000 for a flop, but we were winning the game, Paul don't mind. It's like you pay the $10,000 to get, you know, Kobe's fifth foul, and he got to go sit in the bench, and now we've got an opportunity to make hay when he's not out there. But when you make the penalty something that's real in the game, tangible, not money, but we're about to lose this or lose a point here due to your kind of antics. I think now that'll make guys be a little bit more wary, and like you said, we're still gonna get guys who exaggerate the contact, but we're not gonna get the acting, you know, when the guys roll around on the ground and act like they got shot. And,
who is this going to hurt the most? Who you think?
ooh,
Who is this going to affect?
I'll give you Marcus Smart,
All right.
Kyle Lowry.
God,
I love you, Kyle. Joel Embiid. And then
this needs to be a bet in Vegas.
That would be good.
Who's going to pay the most?
Most flopping technicals.
That
Most
should be
flopping
like
checks.
a line on that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
for sure, yeah.
That would be good. How much flopping did you do? I mean,
Me?
you were not known as a flopper. I'm just saying, how much
I
exaggeration did you do?
I probably did more of exaggerated contact more on offense than defense.
I was about to say.
On offense more so than D. You know, if I put my shoulder into it and you hit me and I kind of jerk, but I'm still going, you know what I'm saying? I give you a little extra with the hit. Is this the one on offense?
Paul's got whiplash from
Whiplash call on offense. I give you that. You know, but I'm going to still be in my motion if the ref call it, but I'm going to give you the little whiplash.
Yeah. Be a little something there. All right, because we're live on Showball YouTube right now, so we got some fans writing in questions right now, so I'm going to hit you guys with a couple of them. Right. Players you want to see take the leap in this next season. Who do you think is due for that big leap?
Ooh, that's a good one. Players I want to see take the leap.
It could be at any level.
Okay, so he's already kind of taken the leap, but I think he can ascend to a place where he becomes a household name. I think Tyrese Halliburton is a guy I'm like, he's going to have kind of like what happened to De'Aaron Fox this year.
Yeah, well, he's got Bruce Brown now. He's got more around
He's got
him.
some weapons. He's older. He's more experienced. And to me, you know, I love Tyrese Halliburton's game so much because in an era where all the point guards are so offense heavy in terms of their own individual scoring, he's like a throwback in that he's about making other guys better, but he's still a great offensive player as well.
Yeah.
All right. When I take the leap, I'm going to go with Jordan Poole.
All right.
I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity out there in Washington because if you got a guy who averaged 20 points with Steph Curry, Clay, and now you go to Washington, you don't got them kind of offensive weapons, I can really see him making the All-Star team.
I do think it's going to be a bounce-back season for him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be, right? It can't be worse.
I think he's going to give you around 25 a night out in Washington.
Okay.
I could see it because, like you said, he's gonna have all the opportunities. He's gonna have a green light, and there's a thing to change the scenery. Like when you coming out of a situation, and I'm not just talking about what happened with him and Draymond,
but overall,
the pressure in Golden State is immense. Every year, it's championship for them, and the room for mistakes is very small because they play such a precise style of basketball. You saw in that playoff game when he took that shot, and in Washington, they say, you know what, man, you try. We had a chance. It's a good shot. And Golden State, like, no, man, there's protocols and procedures the way we do things here. So I think that pressure relief for him is going to help him out for sure.
Well, you know, our friends Chris Haynes and Mark Stein do a podcast that they had Darvin Ham on, Lakers coach. He said he thinks Austin Reeves is going to be an all-star. So that's that leap he's expecting. What do you think of that one?
I mean, it's going to kind of hard for him to be an all-star when you got AD and LeBron out there. So I'm not sure if they, that's going to say if he's an All-Star, then the Lakers are going to have 3 All-Stars. They're going to have the best record in the league by the midway point. That's the only way I see him making the All-Star team, because they're going to have the best record. And if they got the best record in the West, that means AD and LeBron making it. Right. So if they're going to take a third one, I'm not so sure.
And then the other part about that, Paul, is you got to see, well, he's making it. Who's not making it because he made it? You got Luka.
Right.
You got
that's the problem
Kyrie,
in the West.
You got Booker. You got Beal. You got so many guys. Ja.
KD.
Well, Ja won't. I think he's gonna miss so many games. He won't be eligible. But Desmond Bain even is a guy who's another guy who might take a leap.
Anthony Edwards.
Yep. Anthony Edwards. So the competition at that position is so fierce that even if he's playing great
at that level, although I always like when the coach reps for his guys. I think that's good.
That's good.
It's funny you bring up Ja. I would actually put him in this category, not on the court, right? I am gonna have the faith and confidence that we are gonna see a different John Morant off the court and just overall this coming season, and that's going to be a leap in and of itself. And I'm looking for that. I'm hoping for that.
Life comes at you fast, and I think this whole experience for him, if it didn't come through the first time, now 25 games means he's not going to be an All-Star because he's just going to miss too many games.
It's a lot of money, by the way, and bonuses over the last season and a half.
Lost endorsements, right? Like the idea that this was a guy that we were ready.
Did he lose endorsements?
I'm just saying, look, he's not making appearances.
Right,
so he's going to not get that money.
Yeah.
But then most importantly, I think this is a guy that, man, we're rooting for him. That's the thing that really hurt about it. Like the league, the fans, everyone wants to see him be that guy from a year ago, positive and looking like he's having fun playing basketball. And through a lot of kind of shenanigans, he's kind of like lost a lot of that. So I think being away from the game, being out, missed 25 games, he's not going to be eligible for any postseason awards. I think he's going to come back, Rachel, with like a more sober mind state in the sense of I got to take this shit seriously pretty much.
Yeah, that's my expectation.
You know why we're rooting for John Morant? Is because we like to see people bounce back. But when you look at American players, he's probably the top 3 best American player in the world,
and
right?
so exciting on the court and so much fun. And it's not just like the shit he does; it's the way he brings the fans in with him to the game.
Paul, absolutely. He's my favorite player to watch. Hands down. Period. He has that Allen Iverson effect. Like when he played, I want to see.
Yep.
It wasn't like he was he's just nice like that.
Yeah.
So I like, and then you get his little dance and all. I like that.
The wild
we need
thing
him out there.
The wild thing that you said, because I have this conversation in my group chat all the time. When's the next American MVP? Because it's gonna like the way it looks right now.
We've had 5 straight foreign-born MVPs.
Yep.
Yeah.
5 straight.
So we need him out there. The best American player right now is Jason Tatum.
Right.
Yes.
And this is not a knock on KD.
Well, I'd say, what about Book?
LeBron,
what about
KD,
KD,
Steph,
LeBron?
and all of them, because they're at the end of their career where this era is about to be over.
Yep.
So who's going to be the next American guys that are going to lead the charge?
One-on-one, you take Jay Tatum over KD in just one game right now?
Yes, right. Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, of course. When I seen that game 7 versus the Sixers, 55. Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like,
KD,
I'm not saying.
I agree with what he's saying in that, like, KD's
I'm not
probably
saying
his MVP days are over.
Yeah, but I'm not saying who you're starting your franchise with or who for the season. If I'm going two guys one-on-one, I still got to go
you
Kevin
say,
Durant.
Wait. You say one-on-one or you need to win a game?
Either way. Well, just
I'm Team JT right now.
Well, you might be a
I
little
haven't
biased.
seen KD do the stuff he did outside of the Warriors. You know what I'm saying?
He's still Kevin Durant, man.
Yeah, of course he's Kevin Durant. He's one of the greatest scorers ever. But right now, you said right now, maybe 3 years ago.
Paul's
right now.
Paul's off that clam chowder right now.
I know it. And by the way, Jason's incredible.
When we're talking names like this, I always love when
Jason
people
got the record for Game 7.
Right.
He got the All-Star game record. Right now, I got to go in.
When we're talking names like that,
I know people are like, "Why are you dissing on Jason Tatum?"
Man.
Yeah, no one's dissing on Jason Tatum. All right, another fan question: which second-year player do you think will raise their stock? I don't know, producer Nate, you got to give us some names of who our candidates are.
Second year.
So
player.
rookies from
okay.
this past
like
year.
Paolo Banchero.
Yeah.
Jabari Smith, I would say.
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
the
he's
guy.
looked great in summer league, by the way.
Yeah, and it's funny. That's a big thing we look for. You know, people always say, "Oh, it's just summer league," but I'm gonna tell you one thing: when a second-year player comes to summer league, there's an expectation of, okay, you have to show that I spent a year around the best and the best in the world,
Right.
coaching and you know, competing against other great players and getting better. I walk into this setting, and even the number 1 overall pick, man, you don't have the experience I got for the last year. So it was really huge for him to come out and show out. And so I like what he's gonna probably bring to the table next year.
Who was that again? You said?
Jabari Smith.
Jabari Smith. Yeah, I like Jabari Smith. But I just think they got too many young guys still trying to prove themselves.
Yep.
You know, when you're on a team like that, it's going to be hard to shine.
Yep.
You know, they got one of the twins.
Yep.
Yeah, but you know, so it's going to be, you know, Jalen Green still trying to prove it. They got too many guys trying to prove themselves. So for me, I think my guy from Detroit, I think it's Ivy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he kind of fell under the radar because coming in, you know, he was looked at as one of them guys like a Ja Morant Westbrook type. And I know he's on a team also with a lot of young guys that got to prove something too. But I think he's going to take another leap this year. I think, you know, when I watch him, how competitive he is. And that's why I look for little things in players that I follow. And he has the type of competitive nature that I think he's going to prepare himself this summer to be ready for this year for people to really know what his name is.
I gotta go Shaden Sharp. That's what I want to see,
name.
right? Because first of all, he's already fun to watch.
Wait, who was that?
In Portland.
Oh, that high-flying dude.
Yeah. I said
Ooh, I
he's
forgot
already,
about that kid in Indiana, too.
Matherin.
Ooh.
I was thinking about him too.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But Shaden
That's a
Sharp
good
is someone
one.
who, again, like, I mean, I have like 16 clips on my phone of him just dunking and shit. And then, obviously, if Dame gets moved, then we expect a lot more from someone in that spot,
Okay,
too.
that's a good one, too.
Could be there.
Man, is Chet Holmgren considered a second year or no?
He's going to
He's
be
eligible for Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year.
Oh, so
right.
he's not second year.
Right. Who was
See, I
that?
think that's unfair because you already went through the whole, you know how the NBA
Well, that
work.
was the Ben
You know
Simmons,
what-
Donovan Mitchell controversy a few years
that's
ago,
what
right?
I'm saying. You know the ins and outs on how to prepare yourself now, and you
Mm-hmm.
can come in better even if you didn't play.
Right.
You know, and we already seeing him dominant in the summer league because he been around it now. He saw how players work. He understands what you got to do. When you coming in fresh as a rookie, you learning this on the fly,
And learning all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
all this other stuff. So he has an advantage. So I mean, this is your second year in the league. You a second year. I don't like that.
No. Oh, look, and the Donovan Mitchell, Ben Simmons
Yeah, Donovan
controversy.
Mitchell should have been Rookie of the Year.
Donovan Mitchell has had the last word, though, so
Yeah.
there's always that.
The last like 7 words at this point.
I'm just saying. All right, other fan question. Which teams clearly got better this offseason with their personnel moves? Who's your offseason winners, Paul?
Ooh. I mean, go first. Let me think.
He's ready.
This one's a little TBD, but
Right.
if Miami pulls off the Damian Lillard thing, it's hard not to.
Oh,
give
do you
them-
want to get into this with him? Because you heard what he said yesterday.
I didn't. What did he say?
Oh, he said that he thinks that the Heat will be gutted enough if they make the Damian Lillard trade that Miami won't make it out of the first round or might not even make the playoffs, said Paul
bugging.
Pierce.
You're bugging.
That's my opinion.
You should have heard me and T-Mac when he said that. I think my voice went up like 6
Oh
octaves.
man. Oh, I wish I was here to
So-
see that.
You got Dame, you got Jimmy Butler, you got 3 legit all-stars,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. But then what you got after that?
I tell you what. First of all, I'm assuming you still have Caleb Martin.
Yeah, he's not gonna be there if you got Dame. I think you're gonna have to put a package around him. Like I would want him.
Yeah,
I would want him
for sure.
I want him, some first rounders, Tyler Hero. If you getting Dame, them salaries got to add up, and you need some quality players.
There's another way to do it. Also, is that if you take back big fella Nurkic, you're doing Portland a solid. Like we're taking some salary off your hands there. And for
Can
Miami,
they do that with also taking Dame's salary?
yes, because
I mean, look, Andy can do anything. but-
exactly. And as
but
this thing grows, because people keep thinking about it's not 1-on-1. Like
No, it's
the
true,
guys
too.
are going
3 to 4 teams.
all these different places.
Right.
But I think the other thing is you got to remember about Miami, they do this every year. Somebody you never heard of who was down in Sioux Falls or something like that, they come in and like as a two-way, next thing you know, rotation guy. So we saw another second-year player, or Orlando Robinson, have a great summer league. Most people don't know that name, but I'm telling you right now, this dude is going to be a rotation player for them. He's the next in this long line of guys in Miami that they just find. Yeah.
Listen to this. Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, Sixers. Listen, are these not locks for the playoffs or the top 4?
Okay.
Locks, right? Then you got to figure with the Knicks, they probably can get better.
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Those are 5 teams that can legit.
Yes. Legit.
That can be legitimately.
They can be
I'm
legit.
messing this up. They can be legit and be better, a higher seed than Miami Heat, right? They can be.
They can be.
Let's say they are.
I don't think
so.
they will
One of
be,
those teams can knock them out in the first round.
Well, I mean, we saw 7 teams be better than them to end the season, and they knocked a bunch of them out.
Yeah, but
8 if you look at halfway through that last playing game.
but I'm gonna say one thing,
Legit.
because I don't say it.
Legitimately.
Just stop.
I want to
I
ask
got it now.
Paul this. I want to ask Paul this because you are Mr. Boston, right?
No.
Is there any part of you that is worried for the Celtics that they lost all the dogs in their locker room? Like Grant Williams and Marcus Smart were the 2 blue-collar guys in that locker room. And yes, Porzingis is an upgrade talent-wise, but I wonder if they lost something there, a little bit of their soul in terms of the guys that do the intangibles both on the floor and in the locker room.
No, not necessarily. I'm not too worried because, I mean, one, you still have your core superstars. You know, then you added another pretty good all-star talent. And so in the emergence of Derek White, he's gotten better. He's emerged as a glue guy, a guy who can really pretty much do what Marcus did. I mean, he was a second-team all-defender. He can handle, he can do all the dirty work, make big shots. So I think they have guys that can really fill in the gap. You know, maybe they'll get some more help this year from Peyton Pritchard. He'll get an opportunity this year more so. You'll put Williams in the lineup with Porzingis and have probably Al Horford come off the bench. And so, you know, it's plug and play. I think they got guys that'll fill in those roles. And then, but what I do think is I think it's time for Jason Tatum to assume more leadership vocally role. Vocals, you know, in the locker room now that his voice is going to be heard a lot more clear.
There's no Marcus.
That Marcus is not in there. Jaylen Brown's voice is going to be a little bit louder this year when they speak in the locker room. And I think this is an opportunity for them to embrace that role.
Right.
And I think if they're able to do that, that's going to make them better. With also adding Sam Cassell to the sideline was huge.
Yeah, huge. You know, we talked about this yesterday.
Huge. You know, you adding a respectable voice, a guy who can get in their ear and say stuff that they probably don't want to hear all the time, but still be respected. And I think that hurt them last year when they lost Stoudemire.
Huge loss. No, you could see it. You could see it mid-season. You could see the difference. Look, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm super interested in what happens in Phoenix. I understand the depth issue that you have. I do think they've been able to add a little bit around the edges. And you got those 3 guys on the court together. I know the fit is still a question mark. We're going to have to see. But Kevin Durant can fit in with anyone. Devin Booker, I mean, sharpshooter.
They're
I'm
great
see it.
players, Rachel.
I know.
You need somebody who steps on the floor and says their first thought is what can I do that's not shooting?
Yeah, exactly.
Offense.
No, I mean, they're going to need to see who can step
y'all
up as a
more
playmaker.
sold on the Miami Heat than the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah. As in terms of making it work out the gate?
Yeah. If they get Lillard, we're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
In terms of making it work out the gate, because Dame steps in and he fills a need that Miami had. Miami's top 5 defense couldn't score. And they scored early in the playoffs, and people said, oh, it's just a fluke. I'm like, no, this was not a good offensive team. And sure enough, we got to the finals, and you saw the problems they have offensively.
Yep.
I mean,
so Dame steps in, and he gives them, first of all, he makes everybody better. Second of all, think about those end-of-game situations. He's a guy that Jimmy doesn't have to be Superman every time. He could just step back and let this guy do his thing. And then at the same time, they help him because he's not a great defensive player, but now he's got a great defense around him. It's a lot easier, Paul, when you got a great defense behind you to be a good defender. I'm pointing at Paul because Once upon a time, they were like, Paul don't guard nobody, and then all of a sudden
Y'all always was a good
they got
defender.
KG out there. Next thing you know,
Paul's
Paul's out
the
here
chest is
diving,
out.
taking
Oh my
charges.
goodness!
The
You see,
whole
that's what I
nine.
hate. People, the narrative change because KG. I always could D up. I always
All
had
right. Well,
D.
look, I'm still putting chips on Phoenix being good. I'm not saying they're going to win a title, but I think it's going to work better than a lot of people
Yeah.
think. And I'm psyched to see those three guys together. You know, I've covered Bradley Beal for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see him get this kind of chance. I think it's going to be great. I want to know what you guys think of the Lakers offseason moves because we live in LA, and I got to tell you, people around there have already given them the title for next year. They're
Title?
like, dude, you do not look. You're related to a bunch of Laker fans. You can't tell me that they don't. They're not walking around. That chest is out.
Hey, man.
They're
Title?
like, we made it to the Western Conference Finals this year.
First
And we
of all,
got
who
better.
did they pick up?
They picked up Gabe Vincent from Miami.
Oh, that's gonna get them over
They
the
picked
top.
up.
Wait a minute.
I'm
You
just
can't
saying,
both say that losing Gabe Vincent means that Miami has no shot next
That's
year,
gonna
which
really
is
get 'em
basically
over
what
the-
he said
that's moving
yesterday.
the needle. All right, name some. What else?
On the other side.
Who else?
They got Cam Reddish. They got
That's
Torian
really.
Prince.
Oh my God, you guys said some
Jackson
crazy names.
Jackson Hayes from New Orleans.
Oh, they hit it out the park. Oh my goodness.
and they brought back Rui and Austin Reeves. Rui Hachimura.
Oh my goodness, jeez, I'm scared. You guys ain't tell me nothing.
Oh man.
Y'all ain't tell me nothing. They really hit the ball out the park with this free agency, huh? Come on, y'all. Come on, man. Come on,
they
man.
had no money
they
to
re-signed
spend.
their own guys, man.
Look,
They better hope that LeBron is healthy.
I mean, LeBron and AD.
Yep.
And y'all really still putting faith on AD being healthy?
Well,
When
there's
it
been
mattered
years.
most?
There's been. I will say this for Anthony Davis. If you look back through his seasons, there's been years where he hasn't had much more than a few ticky-tack injuries that
Yeah.
everyone has. So there's been
The
times.
problem with AD, like image-wise, is if he lands wrong and rolls his ankle,
I know.
and a lot of guys will roll their ankle, tighten it back up, or get retaped and get back out there. But when it happens to him, everybody's like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
You know, so he's got that going for him. And I can't imagine the pressure that every time something happens to you, everyone starts looking at you like you're made out of glass. That must really suck as a feeling. Having said that, I thought last year he took a leap.
I
in
thought
that
so too.
Before, it was if LeBron's not playing,
Yeah.
AD wasn't effective.
No, AD had some monster
Yep.
games this past year.
In LeBron's
and-
absence, I thought like his play when LeBron wasn't on the floor was he took it to another level.
Yes.
I got something for y'all.
Okay.
Anthony Davis won't even make All NBA next year.
What? All right.
Hold
Won't
on.
make All
Hold-
NBA.
Now hold on. Are you saying because he's
Truth
gonna
is
miss too many games,
Games?
or
Did he
he's
make
just
All
not
NBA
gonna be
this
good
year?
enough?
I voted for him
He's
for
an
my
All
13.
NBA MVP talent.
I voted for him for my 13
I will
this
tell
year.
you that, but he won't make All NBA.
Well,
And the
the
reason
games-
I say that is because he won't play the necessary.
Right.
That's
There
what I was
you
going to
go.
say. So this year, for all the postseason awards, you have to play at least 65 games. You are going to see so many elite players not on these postseason awards lists, which I personally think is going to come back to bite the NBA as a whole. I was against this limit for awards because I don't think it's going to make the difference in guys deciding to play or not.
Right.
If you don't feel like you can play that day for whatever reason, you're not going to think, well, in 6 months, I might not win and qualify for an award, so I'm not going to play. I don't think it's going to help the thing they're trying to help. I do think it's going to hurt some of the razzle-dazzle you get in the conversation
Yep.
about NBA awards at the end of the season when it's a little bit dead and you got one things to talk about. And you're right about Anthony Davis. He played 56 games last year. Is he going to make it to 66, 67 this year? It's hard to see.
Rachel, the reason I didn't like that rule is because it's targeting. It is a problem. Guys aren't playing. What's the reason? And they're like, it's because guys don't want to play, and that is false. No. Players want to play. It's organizations that make the decision to sit guys a lot of time. And so when you put a rule like that,
and they don't care about the postseason awards. In fact, it's the other
Saves
way
them
around.
money.
It saves the money. That's the thing that's crazy about this. It's a pretty big conflict of interest. I'm a little surprised the Players Association agreed to, because a lot of these guys' bonuses are tied to winning awards. And now the team who would have to pay the bonus is going to have an active role about whether they even qualify or not. That's bananas to me. And
That's
you're not
slick.
fixing the problem, right?
Slick.
That's pretty slick.
Right?
By the teams. They're gonna save a lot of money.
Right? You're not fixing the problem. And there's some
But
exceptions.
you know they do that with shoe companies too.
In what way?
Endorsements. Like it's like, you know, you got to play a certain amount of number of games,
Right.
you know, and it's incentives in those contracts too.
we had a game.
Those guys might care about those incentives. Guys might care about more than the postseason award incentive.
Grant Hill had $1 million bonus one time. He had to average a certain, like I think it was like 12 points or whatever for the season. So in the last game of the year, we did the math, and like he needed like 24. You know, at this point, G Hill, he's a role player for us. You know, when I tell you that we ran every single play for him, he shot like 30 times that game, and I never get the announcers are like, man, they're really going to Grant Hill a lot. We were just trying to get him his bonus. He got it though.
Well, when the team owner's Robert Sarver, a lot of people in the organization are happy to help out, spend Robert Sarver, pay money. I don't know about that. I mean, look, I think it's going to be. We got another really interesting season coming up in terms of all the different like new configurations. For me, the biggest sort of jarring moment of summer league so far wasn't anything that happened on the court. Wasn't Victor Wembanyama. It was walking into a game and seeing Steph Curry and Chris Paul sitting next to each other courtside.
That looked kind of weird, didn't it?
Because like I just,
That
obviously
weird.
you've known for all this time they're going to play together. It's been weeks now, but like you just see them sit next to each other chatting it up, and it's just, I don't know. It was a little bit of a mind, meld for me.
That's one where I don't know how that's gonna work.
What do y'all think?
What do I think about that dynamic? Oh man, that's gonna be interesting because I
Were you
don't
on
know.
the Clippers team when it was the Clippers Golden State where were you in that? I don't remember.
Man,
which
when
year.
I got there, it wasn't. I don't even consider that a rivalry.
Okay,
I think
because they
one
were still
game they
beating
beat us
it.
by
Okay.
like 50.
Okay.
I mean,
So
I mean,
they were so much better at the time. so.
okay. But before that, remember, it
Before-
was the other
yeah.
way around.
Yeah.
And Chris Paul was giving them trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, there's a lot of nasty shit from back then.
But to be honest with you, Rachel, I don't even think it's about the nastiness. It's about, is Chris Paul ready to accept the role that you're not Chris Paul anymore? Like, you come in there, the ball's not in your hands 80% of the time. We're not running a traditional offense. We're doing a lot of motion. And they're looking at him like, oh, he could be like Sean Livingston was for us. Sean Livingston, early in his career, was this great point guard, but then through the injuries, he comes to Golden State. But
Sean was coming from a very different mindset
exactly,
when he got to
he's
Golden
coming
State.
like, I'm happy to just still be playing
Right.
and being in a good team with good guys, whatever. Chris is coming from 2 years ago, he was in the finals. And now all of a sudden, you say, hey, you got to come off the bench and you got to move it, be quick with your decision making.
Let me tell you something. This is going to be one of the toughest years of Chris's career.
You think so?
Just mentally. You know why? Because you, and I had to go through this. Now, your whole career, you're a starter. You got the ball in your hands. Now, you got to make the adjustment mentally, and you're older, to coming off the bench. So now that's a different type of preparation. So you might come in off the bench and you don't really got a lot of time to warm up. As an older player, that's difficult.
I talked about it yesterday with Tracy,
That's
where
difficult.
Tracy was saying he went through some dark times I'm like, who am I if I'm not Tracy
I'm not
McGrady?
Tracy
Yeah,
McGrady.
exactly.
And he figured it out, and Paul figured it out, and KG figured it out, and Dirk and Tim Duncan. But for every one of those names, there's a list of names that never figured it out. It never sat well with them. And so Chris has a lot, like you said, a lot of soul searching to do.
And he's a ball dominant kind of point
Yeah,
guard.
man.
He needs to get his assists, and Golden State is free flowing.
Yep.
This is going to be a shock to his game and what he's used to. I mean, he's been doing this for how long? What year is this for him? 17?
Yeah.
18, yeah.
I think.
You've
yeah.
been doing it so long, and now it's going to be a shock to him. So I think this is going to be a real difficult year, and I'm not sure how this is going to work.
Well, look, he gave his sort of press conference the other day, first time he met the Golden State media when he was right here at Summer League, and he was asked about coming off the bench, and the question was asked as if it was sort of a done deal, and he balked at that, which is not a surprise. I think the comment was, he said, oh, you're the coach now, or are you coach, like that kind of thing. It was a little shades of Melo in Houston, remember, and all that stuff.
Yep.
But I will say, it's easy for me to sit here and say, because as you say, so much of your identity is wrapped up in being Chris Paul, assist leader, NBA starter, all-star, all that stuff. To me, coming off the bench is what he should want. That's got to be the best thing for him in that situation, because he can have the ball in his hands a lot more. He is facing a different level of defense. Don't you think that that's something he should embrace?
But your body not warmed up like you usually do as a starter. Think about this. You get in the layup line, boom, once the layup line is over with, you come off the bench. So let's say real time. He's going to be sitting for 20 minutes real time? Like real time, not game time. You got jump ball, take a couple minutes. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
So now, as an older player, you get that sweat, and you sit for 20 minutes, then you come into a game where it's like this. As an older player, it's going to be difficult.
I don't remember. Which player was it? I feel like there was someone in
Grant
last
Hill.
season or two.
Oh, I was for us, Grant Hill, that happened to him. We started Matt Barnes and said we're gonna bring G off the bench, and it wasn't a case of G being like,
I don't
But
want to
I'm
do
a
it.
starter. It wasn't that. It was like, guys, I go through the layup line and warm up and sit down, and now I'm locked up.
Now I'm locked up. That's
I feel
what I'm
like there
saying.
was. I feel like there was a player in the last season or two where the coaching staff was like, "Great, he's got to be out there for introductions." But the minute the introductions are done and he's like legally whatever, they send him back to the practice gym, and he did his warm ups there. And then came out because it was the same situation. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on who it was, but it was someone who was used to being a starter.
Yeah.
And it was sort of I might have even been in Brooklyn when they were like trying to work either KD back in, I think maybe, or
I know I haven't heard
James
this
Harden
story,
back
so
in.
I don't know who.
I want to say it was in Brooklyn with one of those guys where it was just more of like working their way back from an injury as opposed to like a long-term thing.
Gotcha.
But the idea was, okay, you're not used to coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Here's maybe a way we could think differently about how to solve that problem. Because the bigger thing you want is you want the guy in the right matchups with the right teammates on the floor. And if you can fix the warm-up problem to get that, I think maybe, I don't know, Steve Kerr's a creative thinker. I don't know. Maybe you start him, but then you don't finish with him. I don't know.
Fix that warm-up problem. Now it's the system.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, now you got
That's
Chris,
the thing.
you know, dribble handoffs, stand in the corner. Draymond got it a lot. You know, that's a huge adjustment, Rach. And
Well, if
I'm
you're
just
second
not
unit?
sure. I'm not sure. They say they play the same style.
I know they do
You
now,
know, they
but-
play the same style. Golden State is not going to change for Chris Paul, who they are.
It reminds me of when the Lakers got Gary Payton and Karl Malone, and everyone was like, "Oh, cool." Then they had problems fitting into the triangle because it's such a specific play, especially for Gary, who's used to being a point guard, ball in my hands. So I remember we were talking about like, why didn't they just switch to pick and roll offense between him and Carl with the second unit, and then play triangle when Shaq and Kobe out there, and it's like. You can't play
can't do
two
that.
systems at once,
You
man.
can't ask the role players to do that. Also, like, it's not that clean that guys come on and off the court. I mean, it does sound like maybe he and Steph won't be on the court that often together. It's hard to, you're going to know what Steve's going to do.
However many minutes Steph plays in the regular season, in the playoff game, he's playing 37, 38 minutes. So if you're not playing them together, you're basically saying, hey, Chris, play 12 minutes a game, but backing up Steph. Like, I don't see that part happening for him.
What about the locker room dynamics, though? Because there was some pretty big rivalry issues there. It wasn't nice. It wasn't like one of these clean, friendly rivalries that we were talking about at the beginning of the show. It was one of the nasty kind of. There was a lot of words said between the two, and it's not just Steph and Chris, which got a lot of. There's a lot of video of that. But Draymond and Chris were not exactly the best of buddies through those years either.
I mean, they're going to find a way. They more mature now. They older, players, and they respect each other.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can ask for. So
And you got to think about it from the standpoint of, from the incumbent guys, we're trying to win one. We're trying to make this into
squeeze
5.
one more out.
Yeah.
For Chris, it's like I'm trying to win one so that
Oh,
I can have the last thing in my career. It's not going to be on some. Man, remember in 2014 when you like?
It's still weird to see them together.
For sure.
And I will say Steph has made such a public effort to welcome Chris. It's very obvious that he's just sort of like, we're good. Fans, it's good. Everyone's good. We're good. But to me, that speaks to Steph's leadership. I mean, that's, one of the most, it's hard to be underrated in anything if you're Steph Curry because we all know how great he is. But the fact that he has been every time, whether it's KD coming in, whether it's now Chris Paul coming in, very different situation. But he is the one who's put his arms around everyone and said, we're going to make this work. We're a team. I don't have an ego. It doesn't have to be about me. I think that continues to be very impressive about
Absolutely.
Steph.
Everyone thinks of Draymond being a leader because he barks and he does. And by
And
the
he
way,
is.
he is, and that stuff is necessary. But there's another part of leadership that people don't always appreciate. Paul, I thought you were like that. You were a guy that made guys feel good and be in it together without kind of being on their head. Although sometimes you be yelling at people too. I
like to have fun with my guys. Make them smile.
Yeah.
I let KG do the barking.
That's a good person to have to do the barking. Can you stick around another 10, 15 minutes or you got to go? You can stick around. You like us.
You. But, if it wasn't you, I'd be out.
If it wasn't you, Rachel,
hey,
of
man,
course I wouldn't.
we got the band back together.
I know. Come on. Come on. All right. So where do you think in the West, I want to continue this Warriors, Suns, Lakers conversation. Denver lost some key pieces. And it's funny. They finished the finals and they just look so unstoppable. And it's not just Jokic, who obviously is otherworldly right now. And it's not just that they've got Jamal, who is all the way back. It's the chemistry, right? It's the group of them together. It's the fact that you can tell that among these teams where guys change every 6 seconds, they've been together. Michael Malone's been there for a long time. They all knew each other, where to be on the court. They lost a couple role players now. Do you think that's going to make an impact? Are they still the favorites in your mind? They're the favorites here in Vegas right now.
I got them as the favorite. I mean, and this is, you still got the best player in the NBA on your team. And I see more upside coming to the guys that are there now in Gordon. He's going to have another year in this system under his belt. You understand, wasn't this Gordon's first year with them?
No.
It was the second year?
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple years. So now they're getting better in the system. But Michael Porter Jr., he still has more upside to grow.
Yep.
You know, so
I'm
I
so
can
happy
see
for him. After the way he started and all that he went through, I'm happy for him that he's gotten that spot. Anyway, sorry.
And what you got to understand, winning a championship gives you confidence. So you can't tell me that Jamal Murray is not going to come back a better player than he was this year. So I can see him. He's going to be in the All-Star game this year. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be in the All-Star game. So he's going to come back better. So that can make up for the lost role players, that the guys within the system getting a little bit better can make up from not having these other key guys. And now you got other young guys. Bron, like we talked about. He's going to get an expanded role. And we know he got some valuable experience last year in the finals. They didn't sit this rookie. They really put him in there, and he played some minutes, and he was effective. So I can see him getting an expanded role and really helping it and filling the void of not having a couple key role players that they lost in this offseason.
They're banking on that. They're on Brown, on Peyton Watson.
Yeah.
There's guys that were young guys for them. They're saying, look, I think these guys are ready to take a leap. The reality is, if they could have kept Bruce Brown, they would have kept Bruce Brown. Right. But, man, me and Eddie Johnson interviewed him on the floor right after that championship. And the first thing Eddie said, you just punched a hell of a lottery ticket. And Bruce went, and I said, he's not coming back.
No. He knew. Michael Malone at the parade, Bruce Brown, you're resigning. I'm like, nope, no, he is not. No, that is not happening.
And by the way,
Unless
good
you
for
got
Bruce.
a $50 million
100%.
bankroll.
By the way, good for Bruce.
Absolutely.
Good for Uncle Jeff. Like, I'm happy for those guys, 100%. So, okay, so they're still your favorite in the West overall?
They're still my favorite in the West.
Who else? Who's going to be in the Western Conference Finals with them? Who's the other challenger in the West?
That's the question right there. Maybe Phoenix. I can see Phoenix. Because right now, no other team has really emerged as like a,
well, the Warriors think they've got something to say. They were in the finals 2 years ago. It's not like they're that far from being an NBA champion.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to sound.
It's so close in the West, though. Yeah. It's so close because after Denver, you lump all these teams like Lakers. You might could throw Dallas in there if they figure out their chemistry issues with Kyrie and Luka. I mean, they're too talented not to be in the mix. Yeah. And so, but I just think it's close, and hopefully Minnesota gets better and be a little more competitive. So after Denver, it's just they're all bunched together.
Can I say a crazy name here?
What you got?
Pelicans.
That's not really that crazy.
I'm gonna tell you, because
if Zion's healthy.
Okay, but that's the problem. If you were an NBA fan, you are desperate for Zion to be healthy. I want to make that clear when people say, "Oh, you guys are ripping on Zion." Like another Tyson Chandler walking by. No, I mean, I think it's like John Morant. Like NBA fans want John Morant to be on the court. Yeah. NBA fans, if you're a true fan, you want Zion on that court because you want to see what he can do. He's a nice young man. You want him to succeed. But it just has not, there is a track record now. He's been in the league for a while, and it has not happened yet that he has been able to play a consistent season.
But when he plays, Rachel,
it's magic.
He's Hall of Fame caliber when he plays.
Electricity in motion. He is everything. But he's got to be on the court.
I think what's happened to him over this last year, the injury again, that tag of like, oh, you're always hurt, the weight problems, the jokes about the weight, and then all the stuff that's happened since the end of the season online with him. I think he was going through his John Morant type, like, okay, I need to take this seriously. I need to eat right because this is my job,
right? Not
because people are weight shaming, whatever. Like, no, this is my job to be in shape and to be ready. And there is a connection between my diet and my ability to be healthy. I think he's finally understood that. He's going to be out there, and people forget. Before all the injuries hit New Orleans.
Yeah, no, they were the end of the calendar year, right? Near New Year's Eve, weren't they like first or second in the league?
Top three. It was them. It was Phoenix before their injuries hit.
They had about a week where they was number one in the West.
Yeah.
Yep.
When he was healthy.
Yeah.
And I think they got a deep team. I think they have a lot of the kind of holes are plugged in terms of you got a great perimeter scorer in Brandon Ingram. You got a great guard in C.J. McCollum. You got a center. Jonas Valanciunas is one of the best centers, I think, outside of like the Embiids and the Jokic's of the world, like that next tier, he's right there. So I think New Orleans is going to put together like a really strong season, and it all comes together for them.
What do you think?
If they're healthy.
If they're healthy.
Yeah, that's I like that's a great pick right there. But like I said, they're all in the same category after Denver.
You're right.
You get throw Memphis, New Orleans, Lakers, Golden State.
Clippers.
They're all after Denver. They're all bunched together where it can be any of them.
Well, the Clippers could change a lot. James Harden has made it clear through intermediaries in reports. Reports say that James Harden would like to go to the Clippers. What do y'all think if that?
Taking a picture.
What do y'all think if that does come to fruition there?
Oof. Here's the thing. Like, I think James thrives in a situation where the ball is in his hands and where the pressure to be something otherworldly is not there. Going to the Clippers, again, it's just like what we talk about New Orleans. If they're healthy, it works. Like, it works because that's what they need too. They've been needing someone.
They have been needing someone 100%
to do
to
all
distribute, to do all the stuff. Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, are they going to be healthy? And are those guys, meaning Kawhi and PG, ready to be off ball and kind of moving off ball and letting someone else feed them?
I mean, they got Westbrook there already, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you bring in Harden? You got Westbrook, who I thought did a tremendous job with them. I thought he did an excellent job.
He was a better fit there than anywhere else he has been in a while.
I don't see that fit with James Harden coming there. I mean, I just don't. I mean, his fit is in Philly, and that'll present chemistry issues if you find a way to get James Harden. Unless you're getting rid of one of them, Kawhi or PG. I just see too many issues chemistry-wise. I see an older team, all of them banged up, been through injuries, and then I just don't see that scenario.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like the Clippers, we talk about health with the Pelicans. The Clippers have been a team that can never stay healthy.
Our guy Ty Lue, every attempt for the end of the season, I'm like, poor Ty. Like if I think he's one of the best X and O coaches in the league, and to not have the chess pieces that you are capable of moving around is always it's so frustrating to watch.
Clippers will not win a championship until they move into the Intuit Dome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
you think it's that much of an aura of being in the Lakers building?
Aura of being in the shadow of the Lakers is haunted them their whole franchise existence.
Yeah.
And until they do that, this injuries didn't just start with Kawhi and PG. This goes back to like
Blake,
Chris Paul and Blake and all them were there.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, we're about to get off here, so I want to get off the air here. So I want to give you your chance to plug. You have a new show, Oddball. I don't like the name. I'm just going to tell you right now.
I don't like the name either. When they said this is the name, hey, Paul, I'm telling you, they said Oddball. I said I don't like the name. I said, well, do you have a name right now in your head? I was like, no. Like, what is the name? I said, can I shit on it? Like on air, can I say openly I don't like the name? They said, yeah, man, knock yourself out. So that was the deal. They get to name it that. I get to be honest about how I feel about the name, but
the show's
come up
good.
with a name. You got to come up with a new name.
Nah, man,
is it too late?
It's too late now. They already printed the merch and everything, man.
Oh, the merch is out there already.
It's a done deal from that standpoint. But what my hope is, and what I'm really passionate about is the show, whatever you want to call it, fits what I have in my brain. And Rachel, I was talking to you last night at the screening,
Goliath screening,
Goliath screening, and I said, I want what's happening in my head to be the show. I'll let you have the name.
It's a scary place. What's happening in your head?
I mean, but I want the world to see it.
Yes.
Because the stuff about basketball, like what we just did right here, that to me is fun. Like talking about the game like that. A lot of other places, I don't think it's fun. And more than anything, I see people. Their approach is kind of like everything in the game is bad now.
Yep.
Oh, the players are soft. Oh, like they shoot too many threes. And it's just, man, like I don't want that. Like I don't want to be the complaining guy. I want it to be something fun. And so within that, they're letting me kind of almost play a character on the show. Which I'm me. I worked at ESPN and I worked with Hall of Famers. And before that, I worked for the Suns and I worked with Hall of Famers. I worked for the Knicks. I worked with Hall of Famers. But also, I'm an asshole, but it's clear to the viewer
You're
that
putting
it's
on
like,
a character. It's your Larry David face.
It's not me dumping on the league and the players. It's, oh, this dude is just mad.
Right.
And I'm almost the butt of the joke there. So I'm hoping that what's happening in my head can actually play out. And then whatever that you want to call the show, you could call it a great show.
I like it. I like it. Right. So you can look for that. Meadowlark Media's got that. You can look for it on YouTube, right?
Oddball, Amin El Hassan.
There you go. Boom. We'll get the merch and we'll let you know what we think about it. Thank you all for being with us. Show Basketball Live. You can catch us anytime on YouTube. You can get a replay if you missed earlier in the show. We got so much good stuff coming up still the rest of the summer. It's the off season, but you got to pay attention to Showtime because we're always doing stuff. And don't forget Goliath, Sunday night on the network.
It's great. Watch it.
Boom.